Hello. Uh, Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to TechGeek webinars. Our endeavor to empower techies. I'm Bharat, product manager at techgeek.com. We believe that sharing of knowledge is the key of enhancing our performances and for our growth as professionals. With this principle in mind, TechGeek has initiated a series of webinars conducted by industry experts to get a crisp insight of various domains. Today's webinar, our fifth in the series, and will throw light on moving from black box to white box testing as a career option. Our guest speaker today is Ganesh Sahai, who is a quality manager from Adobe Systems India Private Limited. So actually Ganesh has completed his BTech from IIT Delhi and is a co-founder of multiple startup companies in the field of IT, marketing and academics. He has been working for Adobe since 1999. At Adobe, he has set up teams from scratch for various Adobe products like Acrobat, Adobe Reader, Air, CS, and productivity tools, etc., spanning from mobile, desktop, and enterprise applications and hosted services. He has a zeal for innovation and has got 16 ideas approved for patents. So without taking much time of yours, I will hand over the mic to our speaker. Over to you, Ganesh.
Yeah, thanks, Bharat. Thanks. Hi, everybody. Okay, so let's get started. First of all, apologies for the delay in starting it. There was some technical glitches at the last moment, and now we are up and about. All right. If you cannot, not able to hear the audio or the screen, feel free to post a comment, and we'll take care of it. So the topic of the discussion is, or my talk today is moving from black box to white box testing as a career option. Okay, so the agenda is going to be like this. The introduction has already been done. I'll talk about what is the need of the hour in terms of the present project execution scenarios, and then I'll briefly walk through a black box versus white box versus gray box testing, and then moving to white box, what is the job content and what are the skills required and the tools, and then ultimately we'll deep dive into what is the impact on the career progression. Okay, so now talking about the need of the hour. If you see, the primemost of any business activity are the consumer demands, and the consumer demands determine your business needs. If we look at a little more at a granular level, so the changing paradigm is that more and better value-added features are being asked for in lesser time, because the end customers are looking forward to enhancing their productivity, right? And that in turn will get them edge into the market. So how that can be taken care of in a very faster manner is something which is of prime importance. So that's what the other bullet point which I put is which is like the quick turnaround for the high priority customer issues. Now once you roll out certain things, a certain deliverable, the next thing is that what is the turnaround time for any high priority customer issues that come in form of bugs or some security concerns, and that ultimately will impact the productivity of these clients. And in the given scenario of information flow, whereas the information flows in such a fast manner, thanks to all the social media channels that we have now, the information flow is so viral that it can hit the brand value, both in terms of good news as well as bad news. So where it makes a lot of sense to leverage on the good news in order to improve the brand value, but at the same time, if a mitigation is not done about the bad news, then it will hit the brand in a negative way. For example, it just happened in case of Sony PSP, and also what happened with Lockheed Martin in terms of their systems getting hacked and important information getting leaked out. Now, and in case of businesses, if this thing happens, or you're losing out in delivering value-added features in lesser time, and not taking care of customer issues, the competitor will be fast enough, and if it is fast enough to fill the gaps, then you start to lose business. So this is the current scenario in terms of the consumer demands and business needs. Now, this from the backend perspective, if you look at, puts a lot of demand from the engineering teams. And what it means is that the engineering teams need to be much more faster and give more accurate delivery, especially in case of, if there are hosted services. People need more and more, not people actually, people need features, but the engineering teams have to deliver more and more frequent releases with, maybe smaller set of features, so that their end customer is engaged in terms of getting flavor of enhanced features or newer features. And the tolerance level for downtimes is very low. In case of hosted services, your system cannot go down at all. If you see, if it goes down, then again it's a lot of backlash that happens, especially which happened in case of again with the services recently, and it start to impact the businesses of the other people who are dependent upon your deliverables. Now, definitely, if there are some issues that are found later on but critical in nature, so you need to do frequent patch releases. For example, let's say there are security flaws which you just can't wait. Actually, it has to go now. That is the kind of demand from the consumers. And we are seeing a increasing trend in terms of movement of engineering teams to agile and scrum methodology, in which the turnaround time is very fast. So now in terms of the testing work in the engineering groups, if you look at the testing tasks, are the roles are divided into BlackBox testing, WhiteBox testing, and Graybox testing broadly. Now let us take a look at each one of these tasks in a one by one manner. So in terms of BlackBox testing, the core focus is what the feature does. Is it working correctly? Now, in order to do this broad task, what a tester needs to do is understand the internal structure, design, and implementation of the item being tested. Now, this is something which the tester need not know actually, the internal structure, design, and implementation of the item. The tests are functional or non-functional in nature. A majority of them usually are functional in nature. So what a tester has to do is read your specifications and write test cases. And this is one part of it, which is like more commonly known as static black box testing. And when these test cases are actually executed, then they are termed as dynamic black box testing. So I'll cite an example over here of that of a calculator. So if you launch a calculator on your desktop, and let's say you want to find the square root of 5, so you go and click the button square root. So you enter number 5 and then you click the button square root and it will give you the value, and you verify whether this value is correct or not. Purely mechanical testing, manual testing, and you verify purely from the end user perspective whether the application under test is working or not. So this is briefly what we do in black box testing. And if we now move on to white box testing, so the broad focus of white box testing is not just what, but how the feature program code works. So if you go back, the black box was, it was just about what the feature does, and white box is, what and how the feature program code works, and is it working correctly. So the white box testing is a testing that takes into account the internal mechanism of a system or component, and in order to do that, you have to have full visibility of the internal working of the software product, specifically the logic and the structure of the code. You have to read and understand the above and then code the test cases to test this code. Again, there is static white box testing, there is a dynamic dynamic white box testing. So in static white box testing, what you do is you will read the the engineering specifications, and based on that you will also read the design documents. Sometimes the design is itself in the engineering specification document, and you will then look at the code that is being written and try to understand in terms of the data structures and the algorithm that are being used whether everything is correctly coded in that or not. Either by inspection or either by peer reviews, or maybe just an informal discussion that happens. Also you take into consideration the standard coding guidelines. There are international standards also for coding, whether they are followed or not, and so on and so forth. So that is what static white box testing comprises of. Now, in terms of the dynamic white box testing, you will start to write code which will test this feature program code. So if I again go back to the example of calculator, in case of calculator, now manually when we had to find the square root of 5, we entered the value of 5 and click the button square root, and 2.2 blah blah blah, the value that came, whether it is correct or not is something that we verified, and if it is correct, then the functionality is working fine from the user's perspective. Now however, let us say if we are to test it programmatically, and let us say the function that gets invoked when you click on the square root button, which does the computation for the square root, though there is system function for it, but for the sake of understanding I have written this. Let's say sqroot is a function, and you pass on the number to it, and it does the calculation of the square root based on some algorithm and returns a value. Now till the time the whole code is written, we create stubs of the form that you can see on the screen, and there is no code for calculating the square root, but which will be written later on, and it returns some value. And you write test drivers, which is against the driver that I've shown, which is like you write a code to call this function, which is get square root, and pass on the number, and then this number would be passed on to the actual function, and the return value would be sent. Now what this get square root will do is that it will take into consideration, or it will read from some location before this call gets generated. It will read this number value from, let's say, a given text file or a CSV file for the various combinations. So various combinations could be like you pass large number, negative number, alphanumeric character, so on and so forth. So an example could be that the negative number that you passed on, it is going to give an imaginary root, and whether your square root calculation algorithm handles that imaginary number or not is something you can take care of in the expected values that come out. So pretty much you don't need, once basically you have the actual functions coded, then you don't need these stubs, and you have the full fledged harness running by the time your feature is ready for shipping. So this is a very basic example of how to do white box testing. Now there is a mix of both, which is called gray box testing. Now in this, the tester knows the internal structure partially, and he has access to the internal data structures and algorithm for the purpose of designing the test cases. But testing is at the user or the black box level. So let me explain what I mean over here. Let us again take the case of calculator. Now assume calculator is not it's not a desktop application, but it's a hosted service, and you invoke by calculator.sqroot value. Now it's pretty much quite close to manual testing. Only thing is that to invoke or get the square root value, what you're doing is that there is a web service which is there, and there are specifications for it, that these are the kind of values that you can pass on to the web service, and it will give you the expected outcome. And it may or may not handle all the error conditions, because the instruction clearly to the end user is that you have to use these web services as mentioned in the specifications, and nothing beyond that. So if there is a range of values that the web services supports, so you have to use only that, not beyond that. So that's like a mix of both white box and black box testing. And I wanted to give this background context so that all the listeners to this webinar, especially the freshers who may not have a good grounding in terms of understanding these terminologies. Okay, now for the ones who are already in black box, you already have, and I strongly recommend folks like freshers and all to spend some time in black box testing before moving to white box testing. And being a black box tester, you already would be having basic understanding towards understanding the feature specifications. For example, calculator, if I take again the example of calculator, so there are a lot of features, and understanding what each feature does, square root or sine, tan, log to the base 10, log to the base e, and so on and so forth. And what are the expected values and various operations that people will do. So you start to understand that, write test cases, and then execute them manually. Now, when you do execution, there are tools available which can also measure the code coverage that has happened in terms of what are the line coverages happening, what are the statement or line or statement coverage, branch coverage, and conditional coverage, and so on and so forth. And then when you get results which are not as per the expected results, you develop skills in the form of how to narrow down an issue precisely, so that it's easy for the developer to quickly fix a bug. And of course, the reporting of the bug in terms of all the details related to severity, priority, configuration tested on, and the steps to reproduce it, what was the actual result and what was the expected result. So in order now to move to white box testing, what is needed is, number one is you have to have a capability to understand the design docs. The design docs will talk about the architecture, right? How the flow of the information will take place, right, where all different decisions will be happening and how the flow will break out into different directions and so on and so forth. So a tester has to have a capability to go through the code and understand it. So in order to have that kind of capability, he has to have he or she has to have a good understanding about data structures, right, and algorithms. Because once you have this understanding, then you will be able to quickly correlate to that what the code that is being written is trying to do. Now, once you have basically understood the data structure, algorithm, and the flow of the code, then you start to design and code the test cases. So as I showed in the white box testing slide, in case of calculator, once you understood how the square root is implemented, right, square root function, you will start to design and code the test cases. That is, get square root and do various stuffs, which will take care of the various scenarios. And that is basically designing and coding the test cases. Now the next part which is required from white box tester in majority of the organization is to design and write test automation frameworks. Now or sometimes test tools, generic white box test tools. So I'll take the example of automation frameworks, which is in the sense that let's say the test harness has to be run on multiple configurations of operating systems, right, and on multiple browsers, right. Just an example. So on different locales. So the combinations of these, how they have to be selected, and then as the build comes in, the test harness get fired, right, and they get tested in all these configurations, and the results posted either on a test case management system, or you could have some kind of results in a repository, and an HTML format mail is generated and sent to the concerned stakeholders. Now, so that is like designing and writing the test automation frameworks. The next thing comes is executing these test cases, which through the automation frameworks is done, and doing the coverage analysis. So coverage analysis, again, using the standard tools which are there for coverage analysis, like Bullseye for C, C++, or Clover for Java, and so on and so forth. You do a code coverage analysis and try to find out what is the line or statement coverage, branch coverage, conditional coverage, and so on and so forth. And then if let's say your code coverage level is at 40, how you can take it to 50 or 60. Of course, it depends upon your schedules and the business requirement, the level of code coverage that you want to achieve, whether the test cases that you are covering are sufficient for you, or you want to cover more test cases in a given time period with the given resources. So it's a kind of a call that the teams have to take based on these constraints that they have. But that's one of the exercises that a white box tester has to focus on. And of course, then when the tests don't pass, isolating the bugs, writing shorter snippets of code, trying to isolate the bug, and then reporting the bugs, which is pretty much similar to what in the format of BlackBox tester will do. So now the important question is that people who are in the BlackBox testing, or who aspire to get into who want to move into white box testing, or people who want to aspire, freshers who want to aspire to get into white box testing. What is the approach that we will take? Now, people who are already working in an organization, they have to identify what are the needs of white box testing that exist, or you can take into confidence and talk to your managers in doing this exercise. which could involve API level testing or web services, or doing automation of this in terms of writing frameworks and all. And sometimes even things like performance testing, so whereby you may put hooks inside the original code and create a special build and do performance testing and create logs and analyze those logs in terms of the performance that the particular component is giving. So and of course you need to check the organization policy, which is very important in terms of moving from black box to white box testing. Now once these two checkpoints are clear to you, and you are clear that there's a need and in what area the need is, and the organization policy is yes, you can move to white box testing, then and you will also come to find out what is the format of moving, because some organizations have the policy of taking the tests again for this kind of movement, and the interviews happen pretty much like when you join the organization, and the debrief is done or selection meet is done, and a call is taken on whether this person is suitable enough to be moved to the white box position. So if everything is okay on this front, then you have to prepare yourself for this movement, and depending upon, let's say for example, if it is API testing, whether it is C, C++ APIs or other kind of APIs, you will have to brush up your programming skills in these languages, right? Or if it is web services testing and you are using tools like JUnit to test, then the knowledge about Java, JavaScripting, you will have to develop, right? And of course, to write frameworks and other small tasks, automating other small tasks, scripting languages like Perl, Python, etc. You may have to acquire these skills. Now, and then of course, using different tools which are required for these things like JUnit, CPP unit, and sometimes there are some in-house tools also. So for testing DLLs, organization develop their own in-house wrapper classes, and these tools basically are used to test the DLLs that they use. So you have to develop an understanding about these kind of tools, and then take the plunge. Go through the process, and you're ready to make the shift. Now, having said this, what is the impact on the career progression? Now, so let me just see if there are any questions so far. Yes, sir? Okay. So I think first one is from Priyanka Kumari. Is there any automated tools available for mobile testing? Yeah, of course. There are hardware solutions in which you can put these mobile devices and then write scripts which can be used for automating the mobile testing. That's one way of doing it. Second way is you can use emulators in which you can automate your test cases. The other one is no, that's it. How can I set our future in software testing? This is okay. This is not exactly related to the context of this thing, but how can I set our future in software testing? You have to prepare yourself, in terms of building the testing skills. You can pick up some, standard software testing books like by Ken Kamer and Rex Black. I'm fond of those authors, right? There are a bunch of others also. Read them. Spend some time on on forums where people discuss about testing, and also touch base with people who are already into testing functions as to what they are doing in these different organizations, and accordingly take tests and move into the testing role. So so that's how you get into the software testing and building your future. I'll cover that some bit in the last slide that I'm going to do. Okay, next one is it necessary to have technical knowledge for white box testing? Yes, you have to have, this is by Rachit Gandhi. So yes, you have to have technical knowledge for white box testing. Another one is from Prashant Kumar. He says, I have 6 months experience in QA manual testing, and manual testing is good for me or not. Now, whether manual testing is good for me, for you or not is something that you have to decide. I cannot decide for you. But however, in the last slide, which I say, what impact white box testing can make on your career progression, I think that will answer your question. Next is from Abhay Upadhyay. What is necessary versus what is nice to have between the two methodology? See, both are necessary, right? And there are certain things like usability testing. This is always a kind of a black box testing. The human experience cannot be ever replicated by any automated system. So so that is a necessary thing. Now, in order, as I discussed in the need of the hour slide, the kind of customer and business needs that are evolving, right, and the faster turnaround times that are needed, you got to develop white box testing teams, and if you move into that, that would be another value add in terms of what you can contribute in the engineering teams need to deliver in these times. From Rahul Chandel, if somebody knows a VB script, does he has the option of moving into white box testing? VB script is not a sufficient condition to move into white box testing. It gives you a good base in terms of understanding the scripting language, right? But in terms of the deliverable that you have, whether it is in C++ or Java, so you got to figure out in that organization and then build yourself over there. Just knowing VB script, if you move into white box testing, that's not good enough. Saurabh Gupta has a question. Is there any testing tool to test PDF pages on web? I think so. You should use in-house plugins, automation plugins that are there in Adobe Reader. I've been in Adobe Reader for almost 9 years, right? And I cannot disclose those tools over this webinar. Maybe you can write to me offline and you can use those tools. Shankar Prasad writes, how well does the shift hold for embedded test? As for white box test on embedded queries, requires more knowledge about hardwares. So for I'm not clear about this question, but what I understand is that you're talking about the embedded softwares or the software interaction. Yeah. So I need to understand what exactly are the scenarios that you're talking about. Then only I can answer it. Maybe you can again write to me offline, Shankar. Another question is from Rakesh Sharma. Say management is not interested in shifting to white box. In that case, attending course from outside is advisable. Yes, it is advisable because you should develop your white box testing skills. This is good for, as again I'll cover in my last slide, good for your career progression. Another one is from Rakesh Sharma. Oh, I covered this, sorry. Sumit Chaudhary, he says, hello sir, currently I am working as black box testing professional and have no work experience with white box or knowledge of automation. What should be the first step to make a switch in the white box? I think I covered this in my one of my slides, so probably that should have answered your question. From Manoj Chauhan, can you give some example of non-functional black box testing? Yeah, in the sense that performance testing, or let's say memory leak testing, these could be some of the non-functional testing, or usability testing. These kind of are non-functional black box testing. Soma Chakra writes, how do you see the opportunities in future for manual testing, automation and whiteboard testing? Okay, so the last slide is going to cover that. Can you please touch, from Jagnesh, can you please touch upon any certification that might help people aspiring for whitebox testing? Not that I know of any certification on top of my head. Pretty much, what I outlined in how do you prepare yourself to move to whitebox testing role is something you'll have to gear up to. So you have to have grasp of a programming language depending on the need, whether it is C, C++, or Java, or just scripting languages, not languages, scripting languages, and also understanding about data structures and algorithms. So grab any book on data structures and algorithms. Sometimes a lot of basic algorithms are covered in data structure books itself, so you can have a look at that. From Mohan, the question is, I am a C++ developer for the last 2 years. How easy it will be for me to jump into whitebox testing, and how should I start with it? I think you can start right away. You already have programming skills, and all you need to do is understand how to design test cases, and what is the kind of what is the kind of approach that you need in terms of a tester designing these test cases. So brush up that, and you can straight away go for it. So that's not a, you are, I think, ready to go. From Ritika, I am working as a software programming for 1.6 years, want to move to a testing, and the first task provided us is functional testing. What's the further scope, as I don't want to be a coder and I have worked I don't want to be a coder and I have worked on any testing tool. I mean,
I haven't, I think.
Okay.
If you forgot to admit, I haven't.
Okay, I haven't. Okay, so if you don't like coding, then you should not get into whitebox testing. So that's number one thing. Now, what you want to do next is something again, you will have to make a call in terms of what are your likings and what you want to do going forward. So you can continue to do black box testing, but then black box testing has its own limitations in terms of career progressions and later part of your career. So again, this is a discussion which I cannot discuss at length over here. It is more of a one-on-one discussion. You can write to me offline. From Keshav, when is it appropriate to use whitebox testing? Inappropriate to use whitebox testing. Okay, so if you are if your test suites are not large enough and the functionality is very simple, and you're finding a lot of bugs, or the coding team does a very good job in terms of doing peer reviews, right, and filtering the bugs at their end. Now, in that kind of a scenario, you don't need to do extensive whitebox testing. So I would say small projects where the coding quality is very good, you need not do whitebox testing. Bhavya. Bhavya writes, moving to whitebox is good, but very few companies use whitebox. Still 90% of the companies use blackbox. So it will create difficulties while changing the job. I will actually beg to differ over here in the sense that it's just that whenever people get into whitebox testing and then become a little skilled, they move into development roles. So the retention is a problem for the organization, and hence you are seeing that not not many people are into white box testing roles in the organizations, and what is left is majority which are doing black box, and which actually is uh, uh, a cost to the company, which hits the profitability, right? So it's just that there are not enough white box testers available, and we are seeing this kind of a situation. Ritesh writes, to how to testing software. I think this question is not yours, I'll skip this question. Sanjeev writes, I'm working as a senior QA and testing Java based application, but in my previous company product was .NET based. So if I become white box tester and started Java based application, it makes it makes some limitation for me, because in future when I think about job change, then I need to search only company where only Java based application is developed from. Well, as a technologist, we should be open about all kind of technologies, whether it is Java or .NET or whatever. But yes, if you have a preference for a given technology, right, and you want to stick on with that, then I think you will have a limited options available, and that's a conscious choice you will have to make, and accordingly find the companies that you can work for and make switch to. Okay. Okay, so there is a question from Siva Kumar. Sir, just give some brief information about agile testing. So, agile or Scrum methodology, in which the deliverables are packaged in terms of what can be delivered in a given sprint, and a sprint is typically of 20 working days. Now, and as I mentioned in my earlier slides, that the trend is towards moving agile or Scrum methodology, where the testing team has to be in line with delivering the features as quickly as they are getting developed. In the absence of good white box skills and automation in place, especially in terms of testing or certifying the integration of the changes that are happening, it becomes a bottleneck, because the regression suite is so large which needs to be executed manually that it takes a lot of time in the sprint, and the development team cannot move until unless the testing team has finished. So in agile testing, it is very essential to gear up and move into white box testing roles and adopt white box testing, and hence contribute in a big way into automation. The next one is from Bhavya. For tool testing, is it a good idea to do white box testing or both white box and black box testing? I think both actually, because there will be a certain set of test cases which may not have been coded. So and that actually quite a number of times happens. So it has to be a combination of both. Sumit writes, which scripting language and automation tools are most in demand? Well, depending upon organization it varies, but yes, scripting language Perl, Python are very popular, right? So, and of course, you should have good handle on DOS scripting, which happens, right, or shell scripting, right, which is there. So these are the scripting languages which are very popular. Tools, depending upon the various technologies that you're using varies. That's about it. Okay, so let me quickly cover my last slide in terms of how it is going to impact your career progression, and this is a very important slide, and I would like you to pay utmost attention to each and every bullet point, because it is going to be deciding in what future you are creating for yourself. So first, in your testing career, it is very good and important to be a black box tester, right? However, as year pass on, your black box testing career will peak out. Even if you move into management roles, the career growth is not going to be very fast, right? and it will be slow. So that's what I mean, that it is going to peak out. Now if you move to white box testing roles, one thing is that your technical knowledge surely goes up, right? And you start to understand data structures, algorithms, and how the code is being written. So you start to get, at par with developers. Now what that results in is respect and recognition from the engineering group. And as time goes by, the developers start to approach the white box testers for design discussions and even for coding issues, and at times for fixing bugs. So you become to a larger extent kind of an equal partner in the coding exercise. And definitely once you reach that level, your market value goes up, and it is therefore difficult to get white box testers in the market, and they are much sought after. And this results in, it's a demand supply thing. So it results in higher salary packages and better retention policies, because the organization don't want to lose them. And there's always a risk, and this is not, this is a genuine risk that, the organization start to lose them to development jobs. And this leads to a faster career growth. There is no doubt about it. So, I would like to conclude this presentation by saying that all those people who are into black box testing, they must gear up, right, and try to develop themselves into white box testers. This is going to be a turning point in their career path and career progressions, and make them much more confident and respected in the engineering groups, and get more recognitions, and of course more salaries. Thank you.
Thank you, Ganesh, for your session on moving from black box to white box testing as a career option. It was indeed an enlightening session. I would also like to thank our participants for their support in making this webinar a huge success. And the recording of this webinar will be available on techgeek.com tomorrow, along with your queries answered. So before I sign off today, our next webinar will be posted on techgeek.com shortly, and we'll send you mailers about it. So see you all on next Wednesday at 5 p.m. Thank you.